Hello, people that watch this program. Welcome to another week's show. Going to be talking about some things that are out there in the world. This time, things that are particularly concerning to me, and news that I would like to discuss. I consider myself a concerned citizen of sorts, a citizen who happens to be concerned, very concerned, with the absolute state of civilization. So concerned that, of course, I'm not going to do anything about that. I'm just going to do a weekly video log about how concerned I am. So, hats off to me for putting my money where my mouth is on that one. But going to be talking about some news here. A little bit over the last year or so, I've been going on a war on parents on my show. Some people have noticed this as one of the subjects I like to talk about. We're going to be delving into the war on parents here pretty soon. I got a couple of stories in regards to that. So all the parents out there, I apologize once again. We're going to be talking about the pandemic, of course, that no one likes to talk about. I get a lot of comments from people, oh, you talk about the pandemic. And it's like, no, it's just 60 or 70% of what I talk about because it's the most concerning thing. And if you're upset about pandemic coverage, you probably don't believe in the pandemic. You're probably one of those weird right-wingers or Biden voters that don't believe in viruses. So, as far as I'm concerned, the quicker you get triggered enough to run away permanently, the better for me. And probably society, because, you're probably going to go into such a state of denial that you're going to infect yourself multiple times and kill yourself as a way to, prove someone on the internet wrong or something. But going to be talking about that pandemic, of course. We're going to be talking about elections, right? Primary elections. Did someone say elections? The primaries, guys. Okay, check this out. So, there's these primary elections. Now, you probably already know about the primary elections because almost everyone in the internet politics space can't shut the fuck up about them, even though there's no news. Trump is the nominee, Biden's the nominee. We've known this for years. Now, there are a couple people that would spend years of that life, right, going on Marianne Williamson or Robert Kennedy or Cornel West. There's some motherfuckers out there that are like that. But in my specific parlance, I would call them stupid ass bitches, okay? Anyone that made any video about any election, these are fake elections. I need people to really understand this. The primary season this year is fake. It's not real. There's no elections. You go to vote, and you're not voting for anything, at least in terms of the presidential primary, of course. But, no one talks about local primaries or anything. Everyone's focused on the national race, the horse race. Nikki Haley, guys. Oh, man. Chris Christie, guys. Trust me, this time is this. Anyone who spent any amount of time talking about any of that shit, as far as I'm concerned, is they're too dumb to have a YouTube show. To be honest with you, or maybe they're just dumb enough to have a YouTube show. I mean, look at the world, right? So there's my coverage of the elections. Stupid ass bitches talk about that shit. We're going to be talking today about government institutions and how they lie. Isn't that interesting? You ever think about this for a moment? Okay, so we have governments, right? And what's the role of the government? To plan and organize things at a large scale, right? That's the only value that the government has, right? And if they can't do that, why do we have a government? We're paying taxes, we're giving them money for what? Right? So what are they doing with that money? Now, obviously, money in the United States doesn't really exist. Taxes are kind of fake anyway. And the government can just print its own money supply whenever they want. And the debt and deficit, they don't fucking matter at all. So it's okay, so we're in debt, we're in a deficit. Doesn't fucking matter. We're in a surplus. Doesn't fucking matter. The money's fake. As far as the government's concerned, of course, money is very real for the people out there. Isn't that weird how that works out, that the government can just basically cheat all the time and lie and steal, and yet we still acknowledge that the government exists and has authority over us? Isn't that a little strange? Do you ever sit back and think about that for a moment? Like, wait a second, what? Like, we don't have clean water, right? Isn't that like Civilization 101? Like, if you look at like fantasy fiction and like science fiction and stuff like that, right? And you'll see a lot of the times that there's turmoil, right? Especially in fantasy fiction, is like, the well got poisoned and now we're all out of water, so we're dead now, right? Or the food supply, there was like a fucking fire and the whole crops got fucked up and now we have no food, right? Like, and then like everyone in the society spends all their time and energy trying to fix the problem, right? But that's fiction, of course. No, like in the real world, oh shit, the wheat farm got destroyed. Everyone would just sit around playing fucking cell phone games until they wilted away and starved to death. That's the real world that we live in, right? But again, so we don't have clean water in this country. We don't have clean food. We don't have clean air. Everything is riddled with pollution, viruses, plastic in the food. We got microplastics, nanoplastics. We got fucking chemicals in the food. Everything's fucked up. And yet we're still acknowledging that the government exists. And there are people out there that actually genuinely believe that the government has their best interest in mind. And those are the weakest links in our society right now, as far as I'm concerned. People that have any faith in the government whatsoever, man, if you can get scammed into believing that the government cares about you, yikes, weakest link as far as I'm concerned, right? But of course, we have to put up with this system. We have to play pretend. Otherwise, what happens? You become someone like me who has no friends, doesn't go outside, and fucking rants on the internet once a week about shit that no one cares about, apparently. Or you get arrested because, you're actually trying to do something about it, and then you get thrown in jail, and then you get killed with the legal system. You ever think about that? Or the justice system, whatever it is, right? The justice system? That's another reason why the government would theoretically exist, right? Right? So that they could enforce law, right? Like, that's something, right? There's something right there, except all the laws that they enforce really only affect poor people and don't affect rich people at all. Like Joe Biden launching missiles in another country and, killing people for seemingly no reason. Is he going to get standing on trial for murder? Right? Like, that's not going to happen, right? So, I just think about the world and I think, God damn, this shit is fucked. And personally, I've said this for a while now. I don't see any light at the end of this tunnel. I really don't. I think society is over. At least this current civilization is done. It's already kaput. This, post-World War II, like United Nations kind of scam thing that they've been running for about 100 years now. I think that's over. That's done. That's gonzo, right? And we're entering a new era of pestilence, famine, cancer, disease, death, hatred, division, and no one's really going to do anything about that. Like, that's the thing about it that's so fascinating to me, is that there's no hero in the story. Like when you read about fiction and look into fiction and like fantasy and stuff like that, there's always like a hero who's going to save the day. But not in the real world. There is no hero who's going to save this day. We're all just going to die. We're all going to kill each other over stupid ass fucking garbage. We're going to eat poisoned food and then die in our 30s from like heart attacks from COVID or like liver failure from fucking certain chemicals that are being put in the food supply. And to me, it's like a little concerning, And whenever I talk about this stuff, I always get people in my comment section who's like, why are you talking about this, man? Like, don't you want to talk about the fake elections, man? Don't you want to talk about Nikki Haley, bro? Like, and it's like, Jesus fucking Christ, No, I don't. I really don't want to talk about fucking stupid elections. Like, again, vote in your primaries. That's important. But like, other than that, this shit, it doesn't matter. None of this fucking shit matters. It really doesn't. And it concerns me. It really does. How none of the things that, like, people who are taking up a space on the internet to talk about news, they don't actually talk about news. They just talk about this like fake reality TV show garbage, but they consider themselves like it's like imagine if I were to do a television show or a fucking YouTube podcast that did every episode of like The Real Housewives. Like I reviewed every episode of The Real Housewives, right? That would be a stupid fucking channel, right? Like if you like Real Housewives or whatever, like, okay, it's a fine channel. But like, if you don't, what the fuck? There's no value there, right? But the problem with that is everyone going in, oh, this channel is about The Real Housewives, so it's like you just click off immediately. But then there's these people that they claim to be news and politics shows, and all they talk about is the reality TV show of American national elections, none of which matter at all and are all rigged from the jump. Right? None of these people talk about primary elections that actually do matter, or local elections that haven't had money rigged the game from the start. Why? Because then no one would watch the videos, except for people that live in those areas, and they don't want to get pigeonholed into talking about things that matter, so they just go back to the reality TV show. And so whenever I talk about stuff that does matter, like your health, how the government is poisoning you, I get people that go like, well, why don't you just talk about Kevin McCarthy being ousted as speaker? Like, whoa, who cares about that fucking shit? I know that's like 6 months old now or whatever. There's this new border bill. Woo, Nelly. There's a border bill. The Democrats are going full Adolf Hitler, and the Republicans are like, you know what? Let's do the fusion dance. Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini fuse together, and then they invent a dimensional traveling machine they travel to a parallel dimension that everything is progressing at the exact same rate, except until they jump to that dimension, of course. Then things split off. And then they did a fusion with the other fusion of Hitler and Mussolini, and now they're causing congressional jams or whatever, and nothing's happening. Whoa, you don't say. Right, but again, none of that shit matters at all. Now, again, is it interesting to learn about the process? Yes. But the idea that news shows should just be constantly educating people about something you could learn in like 30 seconds with a Google search. How does the government work? Oh, okay, now I know how it works. Oh, Republicans are Nazis, great. Democrats are just fucking toothless morons who take money from Nazis, so a lot of them just act as Nazis. What else, like, do you really need to keep following this fucking circus, like, over and over and over again? Like, and I'm not saying you shouldn't ever look into it, but what I'm saying is, like, I just don't get the people that spend all day, every day looking into that all the time. Like, that's their sole focus. And whenever you talk about stuff that matters, like religion, for example, and how it's destroying the planet because people believe in sky daddies. Ooh, you can't talk about that on the left. Food choice. People are killing themselves and their families and poisoning their kids with awful fast food. Can't talk about that. Right? The sacred cow of left-wing spaces are parents who poison their kids and beat the shit out of their kids and abuse their kids emotionally and psychologically. Never allowed to talk about that on the left. You just can't do it. Let's talk about elections over and over again, of which we all knew the outcome for years ago. But anyway, enough about that. Let's actually get into the news show here. Check this out. I gotta readjust here. The headline's cut off. Foods we eat are covered in plastics that may be causing a rise in premature births, study says. Now, again, of course, parents are going to continue getting COVID over and over, which causes like 10 to 15% chance of birth defects because, parents ultimately don't give a fuck about their kids. It's a status symbol, right? Kids are just a narcissistic vanity project. Like, ooh, I want to have kids. I got to get all of my life achievements that were given to me by the government. So parents aren't going to do anything about this. They don't give a fuck, especially, I'm just saying, like, let's be honest here. Parents don't give a fuck. When you're pregnant, right, you're supposed to eat like unhealthy food all day because like you got cravings, right? And so, what did parents, pregnant people who had cravings do before pudding was invented? You know what they did? They just fucking ate regular food. But now we got poison called pudding, or we got fucking goddamn ice cream, or we got cookies, or we got whatever the fuck that you're craving, and you're just feeding poison to your child because you're a fucking moron, right? And then your child's gonna grow up all fucked up, probably also psychologically fucked up because you fed them poison when they're actually out of the womb as well. But that's a whole separate story. But is anyone going to outrage against the government for putting poison in the food supply that kills our kids? Is anyone going to do that? Is anyone going to go like, oh shit, my kids' lives are at stake. My children, The people that I tell everyone in my life how much I care about, they're being killed by the government. Isn't that the parental responsibility to protect your kids? Right, I forgot. We live in a fucking weirdo La La Land civilization where people only have kids not because they want to protect and nurture their kids, but because they want everyone else to look at them like, yeah, that's a mom, that's a dad. Look how proud of a parent they are. Look at little Timmy playing baseball. Whoa, look how great of a parent they are, so that they can put on the fucking show and tell that is this fucking circus that we call interpersonal social dynamics, right? Where you go home and then you become a fucking disgusting parent, but when you're in public, everything's great. Look how great my kid is. Look how great our family is. We all have to pretend, we can't ever talk about how everything in the world is falling apart. I can't talk about how our parents can't raise us properly because they were fucking uneducated in parenting and then just decided to have a kid anyway because, well, why not? Everyone else is doing it, right? But let's just get into the article here. Premature births are on the rise, yet experts aren't sure why. You ever wonder about that? So, like, you know, they put poison in the food, they put viruses in the air, they put poison in the water, and people just don't know what's going on here. Oh, wow, you're telling me disease rates are going up, disability rates are skyrocketing, premature births are skyrocketing? I wonder why. Maybe it has to do with all the fucking poison we put in the fucking food supply, right? Like chemicals, fucking plastics, you know, like... Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe when we decided to say, hey, fuck the whole food, water, and air thing. Let's just capitalize on money instead. This thing we made up. You know, not the things that we need to live. Water, food, air, oxygen, right? You know, let's just make something up, call it money, and then kill each other for it. Isn't that great? That's a better idea. But let's keep going. Have found synthetic chemicals called phthalates used in clear food packaging and personal care products could be the culprit, according to a new study. Oh, so you know when you go to the grocery store and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to make a great fucking food choice, right? I'm going to get some fucking produce. I'm going to get some vegetables up in this bitch, right? So what do? You go to the fucking produce section, right? And you got these little plastic bags. Yeah, you can't just grab a fucking bunch of carrots and then pay for them and leave. No. You gotta go and put them in the plastic fucking bag, you know? And, because otherwise, how are you gonna get your daily dose of fucking random, disgusting particulates and plastics and chemicals and shit, right? Isn't that a little interesting? Don't you find this stuff a little strange? You know? Maybe we should do something about this. Past research has demonstrated that also known as everywhere chemicals, because they're so goddamn motherfucking common, are hormone disruptors that can impact how the life-giving placenta functions. The organ is the source of oxygen and nutrients for a developing fetus in the womb. So it turns out that plastic in the food supply, not good. It turns out, I know, like, could you imagine, like, you know, we were sold, oh, you know, we're going to make thin plastic to use everything, you know, for the environment. Remember that one? Does anyone remember that? Maybe I'm getting old here, but I remember as a kid, I'm 27 for reference. As a kid, I remember hearing, oh, the Coca-Cola company has decided all their water bottles and soda bottles are going to have thinner plastic. Yeah. And, you know, because the environment, you know, we're using less plastic. Whatever happened to glass? Also, have you ever thought about maybe instead of having fucking soda, which is 99% water in a bottle, how about you just sell fucking little packets of syrup that you can combine with your water that you have at home? So you don't need to spend all this money on plastic in the fucking first place, but hey, whatever. What am I thinking logically in this fucking universe, right? And then all of a sudden, the ways that they produce, I mean, all plastic was produced with all these byproducts, right? But now they've created these weird, like, super thin plastics that just leach chemicals into everything. And, oh, would you look at that? It's killing kids. Oh, wow, isn't that great? Right? But in America, kids being killed is a classic pastime, whether it be in school shootings. You know, everyone loves talking about the dead kids in school shootings, whether it be dropping dead in kickball because they got COVID 13 times because their parents in the school system failed them. Everyone loves celebrating dead kids in this country. Dead kids are the blood that runs through the American veins, right? How can we kill our kids and get away with it? You know, you ever look at, because that's really the ultimate game. We got to kill our kids, but we also got to retain the status and narcissism that goes along with having kids in the first place, right? So what do? We feed them garbage because we don't give a shit about them. We don't give a shit about their health, their safety, their growing, their how they grow up and stuff like that. Development. We'll give them a virus over and over again because everyone else is doing it so that they die young. We make sure that we feed them candy and dessert and fucking pizza and fast food all day and juice. Oh God, don't get me started on juice, right? And this is all just a big game to see who can kill the kids the quickest without being legally culpable and also getting to retain the status, right? If you give your kids too many donuts, right, and then they die of a heart attack or some shit or like that, or liver failure, right, and then like people find out like, oh, your kid was bringing donuts to school every day, everyone knows about that your kid was eating donuts all the time, so you might get away with it on the legal culpability, but the status is at jeopardy, right? So again, it's the ultimate game of America. How can we kill our kids in a way to retain our status, right? So people look at us with sorrow and say, oh my God, the kids died. Oh my God, how sad is that, right? You don't want to be legally culpable. You don't want to end up in a box, in a cage for the rest of your life because you fucking killed your kid like a dumbass. Like, imagine killing your kid and then doing it in a way that's legally culpable for you. Like, Jesus Christ, why don't you just fucking send them to school during Mass Shooting Awareness Month or something? Like, wouldn't that be a lot easier, right? And so on. Anyway, let's keep going here. Phthalates can also contribute to inflammation that can disrupt the placenta even more and set the steps of preterm labor in motion, said lead author Dr. Leonardo Tresande, director of the Environmental Pediatrics at NYU Langone Health. Quote, studies show the largest association with preterm labor is due to phthalate found in food packaging called di-2-ethylhexylphthalate, or DEP. Transande said, quote, in our new study, we found DEP in three similar chemicals could be responsible for 5 to 10% of all preterm births in 2018. This could be one of the reasons why preterm births are on the rise. The 5 to 10% percentage translated in nearly 57,000 preterm births in the United States during 2018. Now, of course, this is all before the pandemic, right? At a cost to society of nearly $4 billion in that year alone. That's the other thing. Like, you ever read an article like this? Oh, the cost to society. Huh? The cost? Did you remember when we all lost collectively $4 billion because of this? What the fuck does that mean? Why does anyone even, no one cares about this fucking, the cost to society by killing kids. Shouldn't it just be like, maybe we shouldn't be killing kids, or they're severely deformed, or they have developmental issues, or they require to live the first 6 months of their life in like a tube or a bubble or some shit. Maybe we shouldn't do that, for the actual care of our children. No, let's just throw in how much it costs, because no one cares about that either, but they care more about how it costs rather than the kids' safety, right? Because, of course, this is America, baby. This paper focused on the relationship between exposure to individual phthalates and also preterm birth. But that's not how people are exposed to chemicals, said Alexa Friedman, a senior scientist of toxicology, blah, blah, blah. Every day they're exposed to more than one phthalate from the products they use, so the risk of preterm birth may actually be greater, said Friedman, who was not involved with the study. Right, then we have a picture of someone who's, I don't even know, what is this, the juice aisle? I don't even know what the fuck this is, but they're trying to pick something out, and it's probably not good for anybody. The American Chemistry Council, an industry trade association for U.S. chemical companies, told CNN the report did not establish causation. Oh, isn't that interesting? Sure, all the microplastics that we're eating has nothing to do with it. There's no causal link or anything. It's not like, they're blocking the placenta. No, there's no causal link whatsoever. Isn't that amazing? Do you ever think about this? People lie for money. You ever think about that? Money is more important than their own kids' safety, right? So people, they get paid to go up there and say, kill your kids and also give us money to do it for you. And everyone cheers, and then they go away. What the fuck? Isn't that weird? Isn't that strange? No, blah, 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 blah. I don't really give a fuck about that. Everywhere chemicals. Globally, approximately 8.4 million metric tons of phthalate and other plasticizers. Now that sounds cool. That's a nice word. Plasticizers are consumed every year, according to the European Plasticizers, an industry trade association. Isn't that interesting? They're calling themselves the European plasticizers. Like, I don't know if I want to be known as a plasticizer. Or maybe I do. I don't know. It sounds like a punk band or something. Manufacturers add phthalates to consumer products to make the plastic more flexible and harder to break, primarily in polyvinyl chloride or PVC products such as children's toys. Isn't that interesting? So when you put that toy in your mouth, little Timmy, you're dosing yourself with some fucked up shit. But hey, is it better than lead? Because that's the only thing we have it to compare against, I guess. Pathalates, sounds like a fucking ancient Greek scholar. Pathalates, I don't know, I'm just fucking around here, are also found in detergents. Isn't that interesting? Vinyl flooring, furniture, and shower curtains, automotive plastics, lubricating oils, and adhesives, rain and stain-resistant products, clothing and shoes. Isn't that weird? You ever think about how we're wearing plastic all the time and it seeps into our fucking pores? You ever think about this stuff? Soap, personal care products, including shampoo, soap, hairspray, and nail polish, in which they make fragrances last longer. You ever think about this? So, hold up, okay. What is the purpose of bathing? To get clean. Not in shitfuck America. The purpose of bathing in shitfuck America is to cover yourself in these disgusting fucking chemically produced unnatural odors so that people perceive you as clean. Because that's the important, as clean, right? The societal construct of clean, right? Because we all know if you smell bad, you're dirty. If you smell neutral, you're dirty. If you smell like chemicals, you're clean, right? I remember when I was going to school, I lived a lot of my childhood without access to plumbing, right? So my only way of cleaning myself for a lot of the years of my childhood, was a good old-fashioned wet a rag or something and just, clean yourself with basic soaps or whatever. And, I would try my best. I would spend 30 minutes to an hour on a daily basis cleaning myself in the most, ridiculous way imaginable just to be clean. But I didn't smell like fragrances, so even though I was clean, I did not have dirt or filth on me or sweat or anything like that, I was perceived as unclean, so I'd get made fun of because I smelled bad. Smelling bad, also known as not smelling like fucking random hyper like intense flowers or some shit, right? So we put these chemicals, and also by the way, they fucking destroy your hair, they destroy your skin, right? So we put these chemicals in soap that reduce the health of our lives so that other people will perceive us as clean even though we're not clean? You ever think about that? Like, isn't that a little weird? Right? Isn't that a little strange? A little weird, that we put that stuff in soap. A little weird. I don't know. Personally, I like my soap to not have excessive plastics or other sorts of chemicals in them that destroy my body's ability to live. I personally prefer my soap to clean the dirt off of my body and nothing else. That's my ideal soap. But hey, what do I know? Studies have connected pathology to childhood obesity, asthma, cardiovascular issues, cancer, and pretty much everything else. We got genital malformations, undescended testicles in baby boys, and low sperm counts and testosterone levels in adult males. I love how it's like, choose your gender, baby boy or adult male. Like what kind of fucking, like why is the language so weird? The Consumer Product Safety Commission no longer allows 8 different phthalates to be used at levels higher than 0.1% in the manufacture of children's toys and child care products. However, not all of the 8 have been limited in food packaging. Okay, so they're like, all right, these chemicals are dangerous. Let's not allow them in kids' toys. The food, though, let's put it in the food. Like, what? Okay. The same chemical, we figured out, it fucks your shit up, okay? Children's toys, bad. The food that we all eat to live, good. Let's put the chemicals in the food. Right? Like, what? Like, is this a joke? No, this is called America. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's kind of fucking crazy. But you can read more of this if you'd like. This just goes into more about how basically we're all fucked. And not in the good dick way, to be honest with you. We're not fucked in the good dick way. Let's continue the war on parents here. I want to check this out. Jury foreperson in Jennifer Crumbly case says the mother failed to secure the gun used in the mass shooting from her son. Jennifer Crumbly, you may know this is one of the 15,563 mass shootings that we've had in the last 2 years or whatever. Jennifer Crumbly, 45, was convicted of involuntary manslaughter in connection with the deadly school shooting carried out by her then 15-year-old son in 2021. So I just want to say this, while I'm continuing my war on parents, I think that this idea of parents it's the sacred cow. You're not allowed to ever talk about parents in any way that's not oh my god, they have it so rough, they're such great people, I love parents, right? Because if you do anything other than that, they might feel under attack, and we can't have fucking that in our society, right? So parents, in this instance, a parent bought a gun for seemingly no reason and gave it to their kid, and they also raised the kid poorly, and their kid carried out a mass shooting. Right now, normally, we would go oh my god, the parents, oh, they're so sad, their kid's crazy, it's not their fault, oh my god, right? I say this, if your kid goes out there and kills people, that problem probably stems from the fucking home, right? Where and how they're raised. Now, again, how much responsibility should parents have versus society versus the school system, right? I think the school system, in this instance, should also be held accountable. Right? We can't just attack the parents. I mean, fuck, haven't they had enough, right? Right? We should be attacking the principal of the school, their teachers. Why? Because they didn't do anything to stop kids from developing in a way that makes them want to go kill people, right? Everyone loves just pinning problems on any other thing or society itself and never taking responsibility for it. I'm sure the teachers could have done better. I'm sure the principal could have done better. I'm sure their fellow students could have done better. I'm sure everyone involved could have done better. But ultimately here, when it comes to the legal system, the parent did give the kid the gun. Hey, little Timmy or Ethan, whatever the fuck their name is, you want a gun? Go kill some kids at school. Now, is that exactly how it went down? Probably not, but it's probably, a little closer than you might think. Crumbly was convicted of all 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter on Tuesday, with the jury holding her criminally responsible for the shooting carried out by her son, Ethan Crumbly, at Oxford High School on Nov 30/21. It was an unprecedented unanimous decision as it marked the first time in the United States that a parent has been held responsible for a child carrying out a mass shooting. Now, again, in my opinion, the source of most fucked up fuckers in this world comes from bad parenting. How do people become conservatives? Bad parents. How do people become Nazis? Bad parents. How do people become school shooters? Bad parents. How do people become liberals? Bad parents. How do people become hyper-capitalists? Bad parents. How do people become just generally unpleasant to be around? Bad parents. Everything starts at bad parenting. I don't believe that there's just some magical gene that makes kids fucking crazy and their environment that they're raised in has nothing to do with it. I don't believe that. I'm sorry. I just don't believe that genetics play 100% responsibility in some kid being fucking crazy, man. I could tell they were fucking crazy since they were 3 years old, man. Then maybe you should have fucking done something about it. Maybe you should have been a role model for that child, right? So as far as I'm concerned, this bitch is guilty. Right, as far as I'm concerned, fuck this bitch, throw her away, right? She should not be a parent, and also, furthermore, we shouldn't be allowing children in a society that has guns. If you have guns in the house and you teach your children how to access the guns at any moment, do not pass go, motherfucker. You should be going to jail right then and there. That's just my opinion. Quote, speaking for myself, I know that each individual juror had their own opinion. The jury foreperson Alex, whose last name was not disclosed for her privacy. But, isn't this her, isn't this her in the fucking news video? Her last name is not there, but her fucking face is there. I don't know. I mean, that's interesting. I guess maybe you can do more online with the last name than the face. Maybe. I don't know. But that's just weird to me. Told NBC's Today Show, unless this is not the person, maybe this is just someone that works at NBC News. I don't fucking know. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't watch that shit. For me, I just felt like Jennifer didn't separate her son from the gun enough to save lives that day. She noted how the mother was the last person known to have had the gun who have had custody of the gun before her son used it in the shooting. Then we got some crocodile tears here. And I think the responsibility of securing the weapon then falls on her. Host Savannah Guthrie asked her, what about those text messages or journal entries or things the jurors saw that indicated Ethan had asked for help and his parents hadn't given them the help? Was that persuasive to you? To me, personally, it wasn't as impactful as the evidence of her having a gun. Now, this is the thing that's fucked up with me. Like, if your kid is writing in a diary, my mom is abusing me, I'm asking for help and no one's helping me, the school system is failing me, my teachers don't care about me, etc., etc. God forbid, the state gets involved, they don't give a shit about kids either, right? And then that doesn't matter to you, it's just the gun. It's just the gun, right? And that's the problem here with this kind of philosophy of we got to blame something and it certainly can't be the parents, right? Because if you take into account, right, let's just say there was no gun in the situation, and this is just a shitty parent, and their kid's being abused to some degree, right? That's called a good parent. That's called America, baby, right? If you torture your child or abuse them emotionally or physically or psychologically, that's called you're a normal parent, right? So, like, no one is able to look at that stuff and go, that's not good either, right? Because then that would be an indictment possibly on themselves, because most people in this society are breeders. They're parents. They have a fetish, a kink, some like weird sexual fetish that they love to bring other human beings into, children that are defenseless creatures, right? Children into their sexual fetish that is poorly thought out. That's called having kids in America, right? So it can't ever be that the parent was just a shitty parent, psychologically abusive, emotionally abusive, physically abusive. It can't ever be that, because then we have to all look at ourselves and we can't do that, so let's just blame the gun. Her husband, James Crumbley, has also been charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. He has pleaded not guilty and is set for trial next month. Ethan Crumbley, 15 years old at the time, opened fire at an Oxford high school in Oxford, Michigan. At Oxford High School in Oxford, Michigan. Do we really need Oxford twice there? I don't know. With a 9mm Sig Sauer handgun that his father had purchased and given to him days before. Wait. I forgot about that little detail here. The fucking goddamn dad bought and gave this fucking kid, who he probably is physically abusive toward, a gun for his birthday or whatever. Like, is this a joke? Like, is this a fucking joke here? Jesus goddamn Christ. Ethan Crumbley, now 17, is serving life in prison without the possibility of parole after pleading guilty in October 2022 to charges that include terrorism, causing death, and first-degree premeditated murder. Now, again, the way I see it, if a child commits a mass shooting, the problem starts with the parents. The problem starts with home, right? Second order, probably the school system. Third order, probably access to violence, when it comes to a gun, for example. That's probably the third. I would say the school system and society at large are probably in the same category. So I would say the gun is like the third most responsible for this terror attack, this school shooting, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Parents are most responsible, and society is the second most responsible. And let's be honest here, right? Parents in this country, fucking garbage. Let's be honest here. D- and or F. You don't get an A for effort. Oh, you had a kid. Well, great. Now you're an amazing person for the rest of your life. How about no? How about having a kid should be looked at as like, this is a fucking job that no one wants to do, but we do it because we love our children or something? Now imagine that, a society that cared about the kids, right? So I'd say the parents here are mostly responsible for raising a kid poorly, being terrible parents, and giving that child access to guns and torturing them in a way that causes them to want to use the guns on innocent people. Then it's society at large. Society doesn't give a fuck about kids. Society lets kids be raised by monsters. And now again, I'm not defending Child Protective Services, because the state doesn't raise kids any better, right? These programs aren't really that good. So your options are being raised by monsters at home or being raised by monsters by the state. Wow, great. Right, which is also rife with abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, and so on, right? But then we have the school system, a bunch of people that pretend to care about the next generation. Oh, we're teachers, we care. Most teachers, at least in my experience, in ways that I've seen either personally or from talking to other people, are just people that want to have authority, power trippers, and what's easier to get authority over than a bunch of first and second graders, right? So a lot of teachers, again, I was bullied by my teachers when I was in school. I remember my kindergarten teacher taking toys from me and throwing them away, right? Just attacking me in an emotional way. And I was a kid. I was 5 years old, right? They would steal my things and throw them in the garbage. And then what am I supposed to do? I told my parents about that. What are they going to do? Nothing. No one ever did anything, right? So maybe, I don't know, maybe having teachers like that, psychologically abusive motherfuckers, maybe that's not a great idea either, but hey, am I going to say every teacher is a bad person? No, there are some teachers that get in there and they actually care about their job. And, maybe for 2 or 3 years, they're a decent teacher, but then they become burnt out. They become a fucking shell of what they used to be. They become jaded, and then they've just become someone who wants to pass the fucking buck to the next teacher. Oh, this kid's a little fucked up. I'll just write that in a little note, and then maybe the school system will send that to the next teacher, and the next teacher will know that kid's a little fucked up, and then they'll treat them differently right out the gate, and then that starts the othering process, and then, hey, maybe their parents will give them a gun for their birthday, if we're lucky, right? So I just want to say, fuck these parents, throw them in the garbage can as far as I'm concerned. But also, it's interesting that the juror is has nothing to do with the parenting. Parenting, she was a great parent, except for buying the kid a gun. That was bad. That's not a great idea. Everything else, abusing the kid, that's great. That's fine. We all do that. Just the gun is where we draw the line. I don't know. I think we can do a little better, personally. Speaking of doing better, check this one out. This is always a fun time. South Carolina seeks to restart executions with electric chair and firing squad. Says painless death not required. Now, isn't that fucking interesting? Isn't that just something that really fucking makes you think about the world and the place that we live in? Motherfucking firing squads. Isn't that just wonderful? We're bringing the firing squad and the electric chair back. Now, personally, I thought that the death penalty is a little fucked to begin with. I don't support the state having the right to kill people. I think that that's crazy. I also don't support the state having a right to put people in cages for their entire life. I think that's insane. I think all of it's insane. You might be asking me, oh, what do we do about the criminals? Have some fucking imagination for once. Maybe we can intervene in the process of creating the criminal, right? Again, where are criminals mass manufactured? They're mass manufactured by shitty fucking parents, as I've already said with the other story, right? So maybe if we as a society actually gave a fuck and educated parents in this country, if you are pregnant or found to be pregnant, you should immediately be forced to go, whatever job you have, fuck that job. That job doesn't fucking matter. You should be immediately forced to undergo year or 2 or 3 years of intense training and study to become a parent. That's my opinion. Just letting random people become parents without any fucking preparedness whatsoever is how we get fucking criminals and fucked up freaks in the first place. That's just my opinion, right? So maybe instead of spending all this money, multiple billions of dollars on a slavery industry, also known as prison, isn't that weird? We just changed the word slave to prisoner, and now all of a sudden everything's fine. Right? Maybe instead of spending billions of dollars on that, we can spend billions of dollars on education and, improving the conditions of the home. Now, again, are there still going to, is it possible? Best parents in the world, society is perfect, you're still going to have fucked up freaks. Is that possible? Yes. Is it a foregone conclusion? I say no. I believe in a world where if everything in the society was good and parents were loving and caring about their kids, that there would be no crime. I firmly believe that. Now, again, is it possible that at that point there will be some sort of genetic marker that makes some kid a fucked up freak or something? Maybe. It's possible. But guess what? We're not even trying to get to that point. So I say, fuck it. Whatever. Let's at least start with the thing that we have control over. But again, South Carolina is going to be shooting people in the fucking head, and they're going to bleed out on the pavement or some fucking... Not like a firing squad. They don't aim for the head. They just like get as many shots in as possible, right? So like this is some fucked up shit. This is some medieval ass shit that's going on here. But again, we don't live in a civilization. We don't live in a society. We live in some giant stage play where everyone's playing pretend. Yeah, the government exists, and we should all worship them at their feet or whatever, because that's the world we live in. But hey, I don't even need to read a whole article here. None of this fucking shit matters. But speaking of the government, you ever think about how, okay, the government, right? They're supposed to be telling us things, to keep us safe, right? You ever think about that? Well, let's check this out. This is an article here about how the CDC is hiding replies on its tweets about long COVID and COVID statistics, right? So isn't that interesting? So Twitter invented a feature where you can hide replies. But like, in the name of free speech, right, you can just click a little button that shows you all the hidden replies. So it basically just creates two response feeds. Ones that I dislike, ones that I'm neutral and or appreciative of. What's the point of that, really? Really, what's the point of that? There is no point. Unless you're the CDC, and then you can tweet out some shit like, oh, wow, look at that, COVID is real again. Well, you better not get killed from COVID, ha ha ha. And then people say like, hey, aren't you the ones who told us that COVID is mild and that we should just get back to work? And then all of a sudden their tweets are hidden. Isn't that interesting? Like I just want people to think about it instead of like the nameless, faceless organization. There's someone, literally their job at the CDC is to peruse the replies and make sure no one can find out information about long COVID. I just want you to understand that. That is someone's job. They are getting paid state tax dollars to sit on Twitter and hide information about long COVID. Just think about how silly that is. Well, let's read this. Pantea Javidin's Twitter bio isn't that of a bot, troll, or anti-vax conspiracy theorist. Quote, faculty and research fellow at Stanford It reads Center for Human Rights and International Justice, blah, blah, blah. Dr. Javidin holds both a JD and PhD, as her handle notes. On February 1st, the CDC tweeted, your next COVID-19 infection could be your worst, so don't gamble with your health. Vaccination reduces risk and severity and keeps you protected. Nothing about masks. You ever think about that? Okay, so because the government is funded by corporations that want you to get a vaccine and then don't alter your behavior whatsoever, and then keep going out to Applebee's, keep going to the movie theaters, keep going to Broadway, keep going to the fucking goddamn shitty, like, ice roller skating rink, keep going to the fucking gym, keep going to school, keep giving the economy your hard-earned money, and don't worry, you can do everything as long as you get vaccinated. But now, obviously, vaccines do not prevent you from getting sick. They don't even prevent you from getting infected. What they do prevent is hospitalization. Now, of course, getting vaccinated is better than not getting vaccinated. You don't want to die, motherfucker, here, right? But they stopped caring about vaccines as soon as they got the hospitalization metric down. Why? Because that's the economy. Once the hospitals get overwhelmed to the point where they can't even function anymore, then little Timmy who broke their leg skateboarding can't get their fucking leg, fixed or whatever the fuck. And all of a sudden, the economy is going to slow down. So the vaccines were not designed to prevent or cure illness. They were designed to prevent you from becoming seriously ill. And then instead of further improving the vaccine, is like, think about it, right? We could have had the great vaccine as a start and then just continuing to improve it until we actually had something that nullified the virus completely. Instead, we just stopped, declared the pandemic over, and told everyone to go back to restaurants and go to Thanksgiving and do all this fucking stupid shit, fly on airplanes, right? And so the CDC is saying, nothing to do with masking. Again, maybe instead of, your next COVID infection could be your worst, so don't get the COVID in the first place by wearing a mask. They're not going to say that. So don't get COVID in the first place by staying home during Thanksgiving. They're not going to say that. They're just going to sell their pharmaceutical products, which again, in this case, the mRNA vaccines have been shown to not be that good. Now again, Just to be clear, so the stupid fuckers don't misunderstand me. Are they better than nothing? Absolutely. Should you be getting vaccinated? Absolutely. Right? But then we have another vaccine that comes along called Novavax that scores better in every metric. But guess what? They don't have the government contracts that Pfizer and Moderna do, so they don't get like advertisements. They don't get state funding. They're actually producing a vaccine that's better. They're actually trying to evolve vaccination in the COVID category, and no one knows what Novavax even is unless you specifically go to the pharmacy and ask for Novavax. You're not even going to be given the option, right? So isn't that a little interesting? And of course, the CDC says nothing about preventing COVID infections at all. Why? Because they're in the business of infecting you. They're the Centers for Disease Spread and Propaganda at this point. They want to infect you as much as possible and then sell you a product to barely treat the infection rather than have you not get infected in the first place, right? But anyway, so that's what the tweet on the CDC account said. On the one hand, it was a welcome departure. This is back to the article itself. On the one hand, it was a welcome departure from some of their previous minimizing. It perhaps a confusing one for folks who have been repeatedly assured that COVID infections will get milder in parents. There is no scientific principle whereby viruses must become milder. This claim is poorly applied misinterpretation of the fact that highly deadly viruses in rural contained populations often burn themselves out before reaching urban centers, e.g. Ebola. Many viruses maintain severity across decades or centuries, including malaria, bubonic plague, and HIV. On an individual level, dengue fever becomes more severe on reinfection. What happened next was less reassuring for advocates. Many COVID-informed doctors, researchers, patients, and allies began urging the CDC to go further, to relay information about long COVID, and to encourage not just vaccination, but stronger mitigation, tools like high-quality masks and air filtration. Well, as we know, there is no long COVID in Ba Sing Se. It doesn't exist. It's not real. You get COVID, you're either dead or you perfectly recover with no long-term or even short-term illness whatsoever. There is no such thing as long COVID, right? According to the CDC. Except if you go to their website and you look real deep, you'll find some articles where they say you might have a 10% chance of getting long COVID per infection even with vaccination, but they're not going to tweet that. They're not going to volunteer that information. The CDC paid for our tax dollars and ostensibly charged with relaying public health information began hiding the replies. Hiding Dr. Javedan's reply was particularly indefensible. It stated, quote, "Notice how long COVID experts protect against long COVID." Quote within a quote. Jesus. How do we prevent nested quotes here? How do we prevent long COVID? The best way is to prevent COVID in the first place. End of nested quote, end of quote. Attached was an image of Dr. Ziad Al-Ali, a prominent long COVID researcher testifying before the Senate Health Committee in a tan K95 mask and extolling the importance of prevention. Quote, "Several people alerted me that the CDC has hidden my comment. Dr. Javedan told me, speaking on the experience, this was alarming considering the factual, helpful, and civil nature of the comment." So again, it's one thing if you want to make the argument that we should hide replies of people that are saying like, fuck you, CDC, do your job better. I still don't agree. Any government should not be hiding anything. That's my opinion. But if you even want to go a little further and say, well, maybe the CDC should hide replies that are like, the vaccines killed my kids, or, like the weird Trumpist QAnon shit, you would have more of a claim there. Like, yeah, they are spreading disinformation that's going to get us killed. But also, again, the CDC is spreading disinformation that's getting us killed. So it's like, the battle of the dimwits here. But I don't think any government agency should be doing this. But again, it's completely indefensible for government agencies to hide actual verified data from verified data collectors and researchers, right? So again, this is what the CDC does. You might consider this to be a little small, wow, it's a Twitter post, right? Who cares? But again, I need people to really understand that there is someone being paid by the United States government to sit on Twitter and hide information about long COVID from people. Think about that. Just think about that, right? Isn't that a little weird? Isn't that a little strange? Someone's job description is hide accurate, verified information about the disease that we're trying to give people over and over again so that people cannot protect themselves. That's someone, you are ostensibly paying taxes, and that tax is paying someone's salary to hide information on long COVID when it comes to Twitter accounts, right? So I don't know, man. That's a little weird to me. I feel like that's a little strange, but hey, what do I know? I'm just a fucking idiot on the internet. Speaking of idiots on the internet, I got another story here for you. Check this out. COVID! This is from fucking that Microsoft website that really fucking sucks, whatever. I like to have all the different websites displayed on this one. World Health Organization claims we're still in a pandemic and says virus is rampant. Isn't that interesting? We're still in a pandemic. Now, of course, if you're a Joe Biden voter, you might believe that the pandemic's over. If you're a Donald Trump voter, you might believe that there was no pandemic in the first place, right? But the World Health Organization, WHO, has claimed that that COVID is rampant and the world is still in a pandemic despite the organization declaring the public health emergency over last year. This is why declaring the public health emergency over was a stupid fucking capitalistic decision. They were pressured, so governments basically said, "We did it!" after doing nothing whatsoever, right? And then they basically said, we're not going to fund the WHO unless you go along with our conspiracy theory. So the WHO did this compromising, the public health emergency is over, but the pandemic's still going on. And of course, people are fucking stupid, so they don't know what the difference between those things are, right? And then the governments and everyone involved, all the citizens just gave up and let the virus kill everyone and maim everyone and disable everyone. Without doing anything, right? The public health emergency being over makes sense if everyone's wearing a mask, if everyone's getting vaccinated. But only 20% of people are getting vaccinated, and we don't even have numbers on people that wear masks in this country, right? So, right, but again, we live in fuckville here. From December 23 to mid-January 24, more than 11,000 deaths were reported from the virus, more than half occurring in the United States. Now, keep in mind, most governments, especially including the United States, don't even report the stuff accurately anymore. You need to have no other illness or disease or chronic disability at all to have your death counted as COVID. If you fell off a skateboard 16 years ago and broke your toe or something, you'll be classified as, they died with COVID, but who really knows if COVID pushed them over the edge? They did skateboard and broke their toe when they were 14. So most of the countries aren't even reporting this information anymore. So factor that in when it comes to 11,000 dead motherfuckers worldwide. The numbers are probably also much higher. But again, how many people, this metric of deaths being the only thing people are concerned about, sure, is dying bad? Yes. You want to know what's arguably worse than dying? Being bedridden for the next 40 or 50 years and not being able to walk for more than 15 minutes at a time. That sounds a lot worse than dying to me, but no one ever discusses that number, right? So if we take into account that 10 to 30%, some studies have said 25%, of infections lead to long COVID, which has also, varying chances of leaving you bedridden as well. It's hard to know what the exact percentage of being bedridden is necessarily, but let's even say that it's just 10%. If you get COVID, there's a 10% chance you'll be bedridden for 3 to 6 months, right? Where are those numbers? Is there, can I find that? Where is it? I'm just looking, I'm just trying to find that. No, we only know about deaths. That's it. Isn't that interesting? The WHO has now said the pandemic is not yet over, instead entering its endemic phase, which means it will continue to spread indefinitely. People think endemic is some end stage where things magically disappear. Oh, it's endemic now. Do you know what that means? It means it's here to stay. That doesn't mean it's a good thing. You know what else is here to stay? Cancer. It's endemic. So let's do nothing to fight it. You know what else is here to stay? Climate change. It's endemic. We can't do anything about it, right? Just because something's endemic doesn't mean it's not a fucking problem. But again, Americans especially, but most people are so fucking stupid. They think endemic means it's just the flu, man. COVID's got a 10 to 15 times higher death rate than the flu, but it's just the flu, man. Hey, bro, it's just the flu, man. Now let's go to Communists R Us organizing meeting to talk about how great communists we are. We can all wear our t-shirts. What? Disabled people want to go to our fucking DSA event? Man, that's not cool. They're harshing our vibe, dude. Don't they know that it's endemic? It's not real, man. Like, if you try to ask a normal person, someone who's by society standards considered an adjusted member of society, you're going to get something like that. Disabled people, never heard of them. Endemic, it means it's fine, right? Endemic means it's mild. It doesn't hurt anybody. The flu is endemic. Now, again, the idea that the flu being endemic also means that we shouldn't do anything about it is also fucking insane, right? But that's just a whole different story as well. Maria van Kerkhove, interim director of the WHO's Department of Epidemic and Pandemic Preparedness and Prevention, said, "We don't know everything about this virus. Even in year 5, there's still a lot of research that needs to be done." She said that complacency is rife at both an individual and a government level, citing low demand for vaccination around the world, which needs to be tackled. Kerkhove also mentioned that mask wearing, social distancing, and improved ventilation were all no-brainers when it comes to confronting the virus. But again, people act like wearing a mask is like World War V. You know, like if you put a mask on, you're going to die instantly. That's what people in the United States, so it's what self-described communists, liberals, Joe Biden voters, regular people, not just the Trump crazies. Like, obviously they're insane, but if you talk to your like left-wing pro-Palestine friend or whatever, you're probably going to come across them saying, well, masks cause cancer, or some other Trump tier conspiracy theory about COVID, right? Why? Because individuals are fucking stupid. They're stupid. I need people to understand. Most people are left-wing, not because they actually see the societal malaise rotting itself from within and want to do something about it. Most people are left-wing because it's trendy, it's popular, it makes you fit in with the cool kids in your social group. That's why most people pretend to be left-wing. That's why you see people say that they're in favor of Palestine or whatever, and then when it comes to COVID, they don't believe in COVID. They're just like a Donald Trump voter or a Joe Biden voter when it comes to COVID. COVID's not real, masks cause cancer, they don't work, right? Like, one hand, they think, oh, Palestinians shouldn't be killed, Israel doesn't have a right to exist, based. But why do they say that? Because their friends are saying it, and their friends also don't believe COVID is real, right? And so, again, most people arrive at left-wing positions because of peer pressure, because of social group and status, perceptions and wanting to be involved with them. Most people don't arrive at these, caring positions because they actually fucking give a shit about themselves or other people. They only want to fit in with the cool kids. They want to sit at the lunch table and have everyone say like, hey man, how was class yesterday? Or whatever the fuck. I don't know what kids are saying, right? That's the only reason, right? That's why you see things like massive pro-Palestine rallies where if you go there and say, hey, shouldn't we be wearing a mask so that we don't all get disabled so that we can continue protesting in the future? And you have people say, what? COVID's over, bro. Right? And it's because, again, these motherfuckers are stupid. She also called it, this is Kerkhove, call on governments to provide free or affordable tests and masks to citizens. Yeah, that's not going to happen. When asked by Scientific American what her predictions were regarding COVID in the coming year, she said, our concern is a variant that's highly transmissible, that's more severe, and also has significant immune escape, which would mean that people would really need to get revaccinated right away. Now, again, the problem is articles like mainstream news, if they do report on COVID, they're going to report on it in this weird sense where it's like, well, they're telling us that masks are good, but who really knows? Like, it's really insane. The level of disability, the reduction of quality of life, and the amount of mass death around people, it doesn't faze them. They would rather go to fucking Red Lobster than give a shit about the person that's sitting next to them on the bus. They would rather go to fucking goddamn see Barbie for the 15th time in the movie theater without a mask on than do literally anything at home, because these people are propagandized by consumer culture. People's identities are intertwined. It's like the double helix of DNA, right? But instead of the double helix of DNA, it's people's ego and identity, right, at the fundamental core of their being, and capitalistic consumer culture. They're just intertwined. They're together at the hip. People do not have any sense of identity that is divorced from consume. That's why you see things like, what restaurant do you like more, fucking Burger King or McDonald's, right? It's consumer wars. What form of consumption do you think is better? Well, I think this form of consumption is better. No, my form of consumption is better. No, my restaurant that I give money to as a private tax is better, right? Because people are fucking stupid in this world. People are fucking stupid in this goddamn world. Speaking about how dumb people are, because people are pretty fucking dumb, let's check out Fox News. Iran capable of building nuclear bomb in 1 week, report finds as Middle East tensions flare. So isn't that great? So while everything is fucking shitting the bed, COVID is killing millions of people, right? Babies are being born with plastic in their DNA or whatever the fuck, and now Fox News is telling everyone, don't worry about any of that shit that affects you actually in the real world. Let's worry about Iran having a nuclear bomb. Like, have we learned nothing in the last 20 fucking something years? Like, Jesus fucking Christ. They got weapons of mass destruction. They're just doing it again. They're doing it again. Weapons of mass destruction. They could build a nuclear bomb in 1 week, right? So obviously, when you read that, you think, oh, we should just completely genocide every Iranian in the next 6.5 days. Otherwise, they'll have a nuke and they'll kill the whole world because they're jihadists or whatever the fuck. Because all Muslims are jihadists, right? In the fucking fantasy land of Fox News. Now, all Muslims are fucking dumb because they believe in fucking God, but that doesn't make them jihadists. Christians are dumb because they believe in God. That doesn't make them jihadists, right? So again, belief in God makes you stupid. Absolutely. It makes you a dumb fuckface idiot with marbles in your head. But it doesn't make you a genocidal jihadist, right? And that's that kind of fucking thing that's just rampant in America. You believe in God? Great. You're one of us. You're a fucking idiot. Oh, you believe in the wrong God? Jihad, suicide bombers. Oh my God, sleeper cells, right? And that's the thing in this world that really is insane to me, right? Is like you have to believe in the correct version of stupid fuck God and made up bullshit. What is the fucking length of beard hair on your version of Santa Claus? A little too short, jihadist. A little too long, jihadist. Just right, perfectly rational, insane belief in the world around us. Wow, you're a functioning member of society. Look at this fucking shit. An Iran watchdog group. Ooh, the watchdogs. The watchdogs. They always come up with these cool ass names. Like, don't you want to be a watchdog? Don't you want to watch dogs like I do? Says the country has enough weapons grade uranium to build a nuclear weapon in just 1 week. Wow. It's too bad we could have had like an Iran nuclear deal, right? That would have prevented them from doing that, which I don't even agree with. If Iran wants a nuke, they should be allowed to have a nuke. Everyone else has got a nuke. Israel's got a nuke. Fucking India's got nukes. Fucking Japan's got nukes. Everyone's got fucking nukes. Why not have Iran have a nuke? But hey, whatever. If only we had this Iran nuclear deal of some kind multiple years earlier that could have prevented this outcome. Oh well, what are you gonna do, right? But this article doesn't matter because people don't read articles. People are just going to see Iran capable of building a nuclear bomb in 1 week. They're going to know that the United States just bombed several Iranian proxies. How are they proxies? They have the same religion. That's how they're proxies. You just have the same religion, right? So if you're a Christian in the Middle East, right? You are basically U.S. backed. You're a U.S. backed proxy. Max the dog is barking. I don't know if you can hear him. If you are Jewish and let's say you're living in Japan, you're an Israel backed proxy. That's the leap of logic here. It's fucking ridiculous. Okay, it's fucking ridiculous, right? But now people are trying to get the United States to attack Iran for why? Because they have a different fucking like made up sky daddy than we do. Give me a fucking break. This shit is ridiculous, man. And the world is falling apart at the seams. And if you talk about anything important, you get people whining in the comments section. Oh, why don't you talk about stuff that matter? Like Nikki Haley in the upcoming election. She's so smart and great. Like, what the fuck, man? Think before you fucking speak. Anyway, that's pretty much my show for today. Thank you for watching. I appreciate people tuning in. to the Fuck Society Power Hour here. I'm gonna go see what Max the dog is so excited about, and I will see, or you will see me later.